Hey gorgeous people, let's get right into it. We are here in Tokyo, Japan, and I'm so excited to be here. But you know your girl got to run it back because I have had small issues along the way. And I wanted to just share the experiences. That way you all can be prepared just in case something like this may happen to you. So let's run it back to yesterday. After I finished my Bangkok excursion, I received notifications saying that my flight was going to be delayed by 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I was like, Lord, that's such a long delay. And I was originally supposed to leave Bangkok at 11:15, arrive in Manila by 3:45, which was the perfect flight schedule because I was able to sleep in. And then by the time I made it to Manila, I wouldn't have to wait that long for my next flight. So I was like, dang, let's see what my options are, because they were showing the flight was going to arrive at 6:30 p.m. My flight to Tokyo was leaving at 7 p.m. And I'm like, I know there's no way I'm going to make it through that airport in 30 minutes before that flight departs. So I instantly hopped into flight attendant mode to see what my options were. Now, Cebu Airline has a great option because they allow you to change your flight schedule 2 hours before departure. So of course I started with them to see if they had an earlier flight. And they definitely did, and it was definitely early. This flight, y'all, was leaving at 4 a.m. I always prefer first flights of the day anyway. That way you have plenty of options to choose from if delays or something like this does happen in the future. So I went ahead, booked my flight, and I only had to pay the difference of the flight. So let's say I paid $100 for the flight originally, and now it's showing it's $150. I only had to pay the $50, right? So that worked out perfectly. Went ahead, booked that, and then proceeded to check into my flight. I was able to check in. However, I'm assuming because I had made the purchase right then and there, it wasn't providing me a boarding pass. So once I arrived at the Bangkok airport, went to the check-in counter, gave them my bag because I knew I was already gonna have to get that checked in, and they provided me with the boarding pass. Now, once I arrived in Manila, if you all have been following my journey, you know that I have been arriving in Terminal 3 and I have been departing out of Terminal 1. Now, this is legit a 30-minute bus ride, and that does not include waiting for the shuttle bus to come. Proceeded to travel over to Terminal 1, and since I am taking Philippines Airlines, I know your girl need a paper boarding pass. So I proceeded to the check-in counter, got my paper boarding pass, checked in my bag, and went ahead and went through immigrations. Now, what are you all supposed to do when arriving into Manila? Please tell me y'all remember that y'all need to fill out your paperwork on the eGov app. Anytime you are arriving and departing in the Philippines, you need to fill that out. I don't know how much I can stress that because I don't want y'all flipping out in the airport. So I did fill that paperwork out prior to arriving in Manila. Went ahead, got checked in, sat down, made it to my gate. Now, between arriving in Manila and getting to my gate, y'all, it took me a full 2 hours. A full 2 hours. I was like, this was the longest experience that I can actually recall of traveling from one gate to another and being comfortable in the space. I was like, even if I probably would have taken my original flight, which was landing at 3:45, to make it all the way through in 2 hours, I still could have potentially missed my flight just because the traffic in the airport could have been longer at that time of day. Side note, my flight from Manila to Tokyo on the Philippines airline actually departed 30 minutes early, y'all. 30 minutes early. Your girl would have missed her flight and I would have been pissed. You hear me? I would have been so pissed. But I digress. So before I actually got on my flight, they did have these barcodes that you had to scan to fill out, once again, immigration paperwork to enter inside of Tokyo. I did fill this form out. However, for some reason, it did not actually take. And I only found that out once I landed in Tokyo. There was a gentleman there greeting everyone as they were coming into the space. And he was asking me for a QR code to show that I filled out my immigration paperwork. I didn't have the form. So he was like, well, that's fine. Just go ahead and fill out the paperwork. So they had actual pieces of paper, which is a plus because for whatever reason, it literally was not working on my phone. So got through immigrations and everything like that. Life was fantastic. You do have to fill out declaration paperwork as well. Once I did that, it was time for me to find my Uber ride. And y'all, it was kind of difficult to find it by just like walking through the airport on my own. However, when you actually request your ride with Uber, they give very, very clear instructions on how to get from wherever you're located in the airport to your pickup location. So I was very happy that they had that, because your girl was kind of lost in the airport for like 5.2 seconds, but nonetheless, still not really sure where I was supposed to be going. And my Uber driver was fantastic. It was white glove service. He had his Tesla, he had his white gloves on. He picked up everything, gently placed my bag inside of the trunk. Like, it was a really great experience, because it's definitely something that I haven't experienced here in the States when it comes to white glove service or anything like that with transportation. So I was happy for that. He made sure he got out, opened the doors. He even had a note in his car saying, don't open the door. He would get out and do it. So definitely a cool experience. Arrived at the hotel exhausted. You hear me? Exhausted. And I went ahead and crashed immediately. So I can't recall if I told you all this, but I'm only in Tokyo for an overnight layover, which means I did not have to pay anything additional to stop here. And yes, I did choose this so I can explore Tokyo for a brief time, because my flight does leave at 4:25 p.m. today, which means I need to be at the airport no later than 2 p.m., which means I need to leave my hotel no later than like 1:15 to give me a little bit of grace just in case there's traffic, because I am 30 minutes from the airport. So for me to cover as much ground as possible, I chose to take the hop on, hop off bus. I feel like this is the best way to cover as much ground as possible when visiting a new city. In the short time frame that I had, this was definitely the best option for me. Now they have 3 different courses: a blue course, green course, and a red course. I will be honest, I wanted to start with the red course because it had plenty of different stops that you can take, and I feel like it visually have more things that I would be able to see from the bus, since I didn't have time and wasn't going to be able to get off the bus and actually walk around and experience it. However, since I missed that first bus, I did have to start on the green course, which left at 9:20. Now, if you're not familiar with hop on, hop off buses, most of them that I've taken in the past, you're able to get off the bus, walk around, and eventually like walk to the next bus stop, whether you're getting on the bus line that you just got off of. So if I was walking and wanted to get back on the green bus line, or if I kind of wanted to veer off the path and get on to the different color bus line. However, when I asked the gentleman who was taking our tickets and stuff like that, he said these bus lines or the bus stops were very far apart and something that I would not be able to walk to. And I found that out to be very true as I was traveling on this bus. Like, it was miles away and you definitely were not going to be able to cross over. So I rode the bus all the way. It was probably about an hour and a half bus ride. Yeah, because I got on the bus at 9:20. I did not arrive back to the starting point until like 10:56. So definitely a decent ride. You do see a different amount of things. They do have headphones for you all because there is narration, so you can't hear what's going on around you and stuff like that. And they're explaining the history of the buildings and whatever may have taken place at what you're looking at. So it's definitely great to do when you want to cover as much of the city as possible. Now we're coming up on the infamous crosswalk that you see on any of your social medias, where it's just a ton of people crossing the street at the same time. I first was excited because, you know, I'm an Amazing Race fan and they were definitely in this location. But then once I finally looked up and seen it, I was like, it's not that exciting. It's just people crossing the street. So if you do come to Tokyo and let's say you're not necessarily going to be in this particular area, I wouldn't necessarily just venture off to make sure I come to this area to get the infamous shot or whatever the case may be, because it's just a ton of people crossing the street minding their business. But that's my own 2 cents, so take it as you will. Now we're headed back to my starting point, and one thing I wanted to mention is the time schedules don't sync up that well. And what I mean by that is, like I said, I'm starting on the green course. I'm going to arrive back at the starting point at 10:56. The next 2 buses that leave is the red course, which leaves at 11:25, and then the blue course, which leaves at 12:20. So either way, I would still need to wait and take a break. So that's exactly what I did. I grabbed me some hot chocolate, warmed up, and then decided to just explore the area because I had some time on my hand. And this area was pretty cool. It had some shopping centers in the area. There was also a museum over here, if I'm not mistaken. I felt safe being a female solo traveler. Like, it was just a decent area. I honestly feel like I was in a business district, so nobody was really paying me any attention anyway. They were going to work, taking lunch, whatever the case may be. So I felt safe enough. If you're over here, obviously you always still want to take precaution, be aware of your surroundings, don't do nothing crazy, respect the culture, and everything was good. So now it's time for me to head back on the bus. I knew I was only gonna be able to see a few things before I made it to my final stop, before it was time for me to go back to the airport. But life was great. I would definitely come back over here to Tokyo to really experience everything that they have to offer. I knew what I was getting myself into when I decided to pick this as a layover, but it just went so fast. But I would definitely take this entire experience all over again. To be able to see 3 countries in under a week was something that I never thought I would do. So to be able to have the opportunity to do it and share these experiences with you all has been a blast. I highly recommend you all trying something like this. If you do, definitely let me know. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'm here. Put them all in the comments. I'm always happy to help you all. Now it's time to go grab my luggage, schedule me an Uber ride. Oh, quick side note. Y'all, I spent like $100 on Uber rides here in Tokyo. These Uber rides was so expensive. Lord, I wish I could have figured out public transportation. But nonetheless, I had a blast. So as always, gorgeous people, go out there, create memories that will last a lifetime.